Hey guys, it's Megan. Welcome back to my home library and another video. Today we are going to talk about some recent reads because I haven't done one of these since, the beginning of the school year, like my summer reads I had done basically. And now I've read quite a few books since school started. Once I get to around 10 books, I think I'll update you guys from now on just so you know where I'm at. First book that I completed is one I mentioned in my previous video that I had started it. Now I have finished it, obviously. That is Finley Donovan Rolls the Dice. And that is book 4 in the Finley Donovan series. I loved book 1. Books 2 and 3 were like, eh. And then I almost didn't read this one, but I heard pretty good things about it. And it was really good. I gave it 4 stars. I thought it was not quite as good as the first one, which I gave like 4.5 stars, but it was by far better than books 2 and 3. So if you're on the fence about whether to continue the series, at least book 4 has some redemption. There is going to be a book 5. I don't know how many more books are going to be in this series, but I think the final, it wrapped up the final plot line that's been going through this whole book. So I'm hoping that, or through the whole series, hoping that the next book in the series will start a whole new plot line. Okay, then I read this little book called See You Yesterday. I say little, it was actually really long. I felt like this book took forever to read for a young adult book. It's by Rachel Lynn Solomon, and I wound up giving it 3.5 stars. It's going to be in a vlog as well. I'll tell you a lot more about my thoughts about it in the vlog, but it was suggested to me, I think, how did I get a hold of it? I honestly can't remember how I found out about this book. Somebody was talking about it because it involves a time loop, and I really liked In a Holidays by Christina Lauren, which also involved a time loop, and I was like, ooh, I could get behind that. I like anything that's kind of a sci-fi premise. I think I had just come off of reading The Husbands, which also kind of has a time loopy, kind of aspect to it. And so this one was a romance, but the main character is in college, and I was like, ooh, I could get behind that because I liked Fangirl, and it was set at college. When young adult books are set at the college level, I really like them better than at the high school level. I think we need more young adult books set at college because, teenagers want to know what college is going to be like. Obviously, it's probably not going to be like this with a time loop. But yeah, it was 419 pages, so wow. Next, I listened to a very strange audiobook. This book called Overwhelmed and Over It, Embrace Your Power to Stay Centered and Sustained in a Chaotic World by Christina Ariello. I don't know how to say her last name. This book only has 67 ratings on Goodreads and only 16 reviews. It came out in the fall of 2020. It's 344 pages, and it just sounded like a really good way to kind of figure out what to prioritize in your life. The subtitle is Embrace Your Power to Stay Centered and Sustained in a Chaotic World. And it didn't offer super practical tips, but it was just very motivating tips. And honestly, I've probably forgotten most of them by now, but I felt like it was just a good read at the time. And I wound up giving it 4 stars. I recommend it. I think it's mostly geared towards women for sure. It is. It's geared towards women. If you're a mom and you're a woman, obviously you are if you're a mom, what am I talking about anymore, that you'd probably like this book. This is a book I DNF'd, but I gave it a good shot, and that is The Ninth Reign by Jen Williams. This is the first of a trilogy, the Winnowing Flame trilogy, and I DNF'd it at 30%, so I didn't really count it as a book I'd read, because I feel like I have to get at least 50% into a book before I count it as a book I've read, but it is 544 pages, so I gave it a lot of pages. And did I say anything about why I DNF'd it? I'm looking at Goodreads. I didn't say. It actually has really good ratings on here, though. Yes, it's fantasy, but then there's a sci-fi element to it too, and I honestly don't remember much about it. I'm going back and looking at the description, but all I know is that I didn't care about anything. I thought the plot was just kind of weird. I didn't care about the characters, and you know how that is if I can't connect to anything in the book. The writing was just okay, the atmosphere was just okay. I was like, unless, and I hear that the other books are kind of more of the same. It's not like they get any better. So this one just wasn't for me. High epic fantasy, even with a little sci-fi mixed in, I don't know, just wasn't for me. Then I read a huge disappointment, and that was The Haunting of Velwood by Gwendolyn Christie. I read this because Kayla from Books and Lala, from her channel, she said that this book was amazing. She loved it. But she definitely likes a different type of book than I do. But I like weird books, and this reminded me of House of Hollow, which I really enjoyed, and it just, I don't know, something about it was giving me those vibes, because it was oh, these sisters that something, or well, was there a sister? No, they were friends. These friends had they were sisters in House of Hollow. In this one, they're friends that had something happen to them when they were little, and they their whole neighborhood disappeared and is haunted. It's a ghost instead of a haunted house. It's a whole haunted neighborhood kind of. No one can go into this neighborhood now, except apparently these girls can go back into it. And it's kind of a mystery that everybody's trying to solve. The government and everything is in on it. And I thought that sounded like a really cool premise, but it's very slow. It's very slow, very quiet, very sad. It's more like about dealing with the past and things that happened. It was more about literally the characters and their relationships with each other. And you would think that it'd be more about, I don't know, the fact that there's like a haunted like neighborhood that, you know, went missing and now these people are like ghosts there and stuff. I don't know. You would think there'd be more about that aspect of it, but no, it was really about the main girl and her relationship with another character. So I just didn't really care. Then I read my first ever ARC, and that was An Academy for Liars. I have a whole video about this one, and I gave this book 3 stars. It was just not what I thought it was going to be. And I feel like I've talked about it in another vlog enough that I'm not going to talk about it here again, but I can link it down below if you're interested in seeing my overall thoughts, well, and in-depth thoughts as well on An Academy for Liars. But yeah, I don't really recommend this one. Then I have another vlog, so I'm not going to go in depth into this one either, on If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio, because I love The Secret History. Everybody says that this is the next one you should read after that if you want dark academia, and I just didn't really like it that much. I actually gave it, well, I mean, I gave it 3.5 stars, so it's not that I disliked it. It's better than average even, but it still was just, it was okay. It was fine. I liked it. I like Shakespeare. I would still rather read The Secret History than this. Then I DNF'd another book at 30%, and that was Ink Blood Sister Scribe, which I need to turn into the library by like tomorrow, I think is when it's due. But this book was on Reagan from Peru's Project, her channel, and she talked about how it was actually more of a kind of a thriller than she thought, like more of a kind of action-packed, you know, adventure with like, not espionage, but I don't know, just like there was more going on to it with it than what she expected there to be, because she thought it was going to be the relationship between like these 2 sisters, but really it's a lot more going on. And I was like, okay, that sounds really good. I'm not really into like witch stories that much, but I'll try it. No, I was bored. I was so bored. There was one character, there's 2 sisters, and they live in like totally opposite places. In fact, one's in, was it Antarctica? I'm pretty sure. Yeah, Antarctica. And that sister, I cared way more about what was happening. The other sister, I just didn't care. And in fact, but the other one had more plot going for her. But I don't know. Anyway, then all of a sudden it switched to like these other people doing something that they're, you know, like a secret society. And they were trying to protect these like ancient magic books and stuff, but you think that that would sound cool, but it was really boring. And once it switched to those other people, I really didn't care. I'd rather gone back to the 2 sisters. So I got about 30%, and I read online that it really didn't get any better and that the end's like really rushed. And so I just decided to DNF it. With all the DNFs, I needed a 5-star read. I've only had 1 5-star read of the entire year, and that was the Elon Musk biography. So not even a fiction book. I've not even had a fiction book that was a 5-star. So I decided to reread a book that I've been wanting to reread for a while because I knew I'd give it 5 stars. And I wanted to make sure it held up, and it did. And it's Vicious by V.E. Schwab. I read this a couple years ago, gave it 5 stars. One of my favorite books of all time now. And I like Vengeful, but I don't know if I still gave Vengeful 5 stars, the sequel, but I don't think I liked it quite as much as this one. So if you want a good, like, kind of revenge story and you like X-Men, then this really is the book for you. And if you like, especially like jumps in time, getting to know these characters as well. Like the characters are not super likable, but you still like them, even though they're not the best people. And there's some side characters that you get really, really attached to. There's a little girl, well, she's like 12-year-old girl that you get really attached to. There's like this ex-con you get really attached to. There's a dog you get attached to. I don't know. I love the characters, love the setup. And I think this book could have just ended here. It didn't need the sequel, but I might eventually reread the sequel. We'll see. Then I read a book that I've been wanting to read forever, and I did it because I just read Vicious. I've been wanting to read this graphic novel. Well, it's not a graphic novel. It's a collection of comics that I think there's like 5 of them in here. I mean, it's very, very teeny tiny, called Extraordinary, and it is set in between Vicious and Vengeful. So it's like the 1.5 story or whatever. So I had not read Vicious in so long. I wanted to reread it before I read this, and I've been putting this off and putting this off, and I read this in like an hour. I'm like, not even an hour probably. I thought, why did I put this off for so long, especially because it was so short? But randomly last year, I decided to order a beautiful copy of this book where I don't order special editions ever, but how much I loved Vicious, I was like, I need a special edition of something. So I'm going to order this random comic in collection in special edition. So that's what I did. Here's if you just want to kind of see like what it looks like. The plot twist at the end, oh my gosh, the last page, I need her to write more. Right now, there are no more than this in the series, but I need her to write more ASAP because that's how good that it was. And the last page was insane. Biggest plot twist like ever. Also, I just realized about a day ago, this is signed. I guess because I got that special edition. Didn't even know it. How cool is that? Anyway, it does follow a different character than Vicious and Vengeful, but the main characters from that series, like some of them are still in it. Like Eli is still the bad guy. So you could definitely check that out if you read Vicious and Vengeful. I highly recommend reading the Extraordinary comics because, oh my gosh, they were so good. Okay, we have 2 final books to talk about, and that is Every Time I Go on Vacation, Someone Dies. And I gave this book 3.75 stars, and I'm considering bumping it up to 4 because of how much I think back on it that I really, really enjoyed it. Every time I read it, I couldn't wait to pick it back up again. For what it is, I loved it. Like, if you go into it knowing what it is, I think that's helpful. Like, I knew it was going to be kind of silly, like Finley Donovan is killing it kind of stuff, like that kind of book. It was sort of like a cozy mystery set at on an Italian vacation where this writer goes with like these other writers and her sister and some other people that relate to like her books and stuff. And then it turns out that somebody is trying to kill this other guy who is with them that used to be her love interest, and she based the characters in her book on this guy, and she even has to like pay him money for it and stuff. He's kind of blackmailing her. You find that out at the very beginning. That's not a spoiler. Anyway, somebody's trying to kill him, and then some other things happen and people die, and she's trying to kind of solve her own mystery, but she's also trying to figure out how to kill off the guy character in her books. And so there's a lot going on. There were some cool plot twists that I really did enjoy, but my favorite part of this book was the writing. It's like Deadpool. Like, it's very like, it'll stop and say like a message to the reader. Like, it's almost like, you know, somebody turning their head at the camera, like breaking the fourth wall and being like, oh, that was a clue. Did you catch that clue? Or have you figured it out yet? Let's pause and see if you, the reader, can figure out who's the killer before I tell you. Like, it literally says that in the book, basically. And I really thought that was really cute. It's very like tongue-in-cheek, and I don't know, I really liked it. So I think if you like that writing style, you'll like this book. I very much enjoyed it. If you liked Finley Donovan at all, then I definitely recommend checking this one out. And the final book I've read recently is Darkly. It is going to be in a reading vlog that should be coming out very soon. So I'm not going to give my full review here because it will be in a vlog. But this is by Marisha Pessl, who wrote Neverworld Wake, one of my favorite books of all time, my favorite young adult book of all time. And I was so excited to read Darkly because of how much I loved Neverworld Wake. Well, I requested the ARC and I got approved. This book does not come out till I think the end of November. So I got approved for this sometime in September, dropped everything, started reading it, even though I said I'd never read another ARC after reading Academy for Liars. And I was like, you know what? No, I want to read this book so badly, I have to read it now. It was about like a board game empire that this lady had, and that she committed suicide years ago when she was like 37 years old. And then now there's these kids that are coming back that they've been hired for this like weird internship type thing over the summer. And is there a connection between them, even though they're from all over the world? I don't know, but they're called to come to like where this board game factory was in England, and they're going to discover the secrets that this lady had and the secrets of her board games, because there's still a game out there that people are like playing, and there's a mystery they have to solve, but there's other mysteries, and I don't know. It was not what I thought it was going to be. I mean, maybe in theory it would have been okay. I loved the promise of like the board game thing, because I love board games, but it just did not stick the landing. One of the plot twists at the end, one of them was fine, but then the very last plot twist was the most predictable thing ever. It wasn't even a twist. It was like, well, duh. I thought there'd be something a little more exciting. And then the way the book ended, literally the last page, no, it was ridiculous. Like, you cannot suspend your disbelief enough to read this book. At least I couldn't, I should say. I could not suspend my disbelief enough to read this book. And I read like high fantasy books and stuff, but this was, I guess because it was set in the real world, it was ridiculous. These teenagers are talking like adults. The like language she uses just sounds ridiculous. Like, their dialogue did not sound real. Just the whole premise, like everything that would happen, you're like, well, why are they doing that? Or, well, but why is this happening? Like, the logic of the book was just not there. And so I wound up giving this book 2 stars, and it's probably going to be like my biggest disappointment of the year. So those are all the books I have read in the last couple of months since the start of school. Now we're going into October, so it'll be kind of, well, yeah, see, I've even got my Mickey shirt on. There you go. It's got bats. We're going into October now. And so I'll read a few more like spooky books, and then I'll probably get more into like, I don't know, Christmassy, but not really Christmassy books, but books more like, I don't know, lighthearted, not so much thrillers and stuff. Like, I've been reading Dark Academia, that kind of, I feel like I've been reading a lot of that. And then it'll be more like fantasy probably for the winter time. So that's kind of my plan. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know down below if you've read any of these books, what you think about them, and I will talk to you later. Bye.